A very good evening to you and welcome to Big Talk here on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. My name is Godwin Sunday. Well, it's a good time for you to follow us across all our social media right now, showing on your screen using the Global TV engine. You can also download the Global TV Nigeria mobile app from your Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcasts. Well, quite a lot of conversation to delve into even this night. But the first conversation on our list is the issues around the fact that President Bola Tinubu has signed 4 tax reform law into laws, and right now they have become full implemented laws across the country. But that's on one hand, and on the other hand, we understand also that they also have been able to put out modalities to ensure that we have a well-structured national, speaking about the various regional commissions across the country in Nigeria at the moment. But then we have a guest that is already standing by to join us in this conversation before we even delve into the other part of the conversation. But then we will openly and also bring in our guests even at this point in time. But then we'll go for the short break, and when we come back, we'll delve into the first conversation for tonight. Please stay with us.
Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Welcome back. And just in case you're just joining us, this is Big Talk here on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. Now, here are some of the advantages of the recently passed 4 bills of the tax reform by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And the first is the Nigerian Tax Bill, the Nigerian Tax Administration Bill, the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill, the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill, and all 4 of those bills have been passed into law. But then, Nigerians are asking, what is the significance of all of this bill and how does it reflect on the average Nigerian? Let me just read out some of the advantages of this bill. First is the creation of the Nigerian Revenue Service, which stands for the NRS. It replaces multiple collection agencies, streamlining tax filing and reducing overlapping levies. Well, we'll delve into all of that conversation just in a couple of minutes. Then also talking about the personal income tax, which stands for PAYE, that is PAYE, exemption for annual income up to 1 million naira, that is about 83,000 naira per month, while those earning up to 1.7 million per month get reduced rates. Essential goods like food, healthcare, education, electricity, and public transport are zero related for VAT. We'll see how that plays out. We will also begin to talk about all of this in the conversation that we're going to be having this evening. And also it talks about the SMEs and micro business incentives. Now, threshold for SMEs registration raised from 25 million naira to 50 million naira in annual turnover, with full exemption from company income tax, CIT, VAT, and withholding tax, supporting the backbone of the Nigerian economy. Well, speaking about the VAT ease and export encouragement, well, export of goods, services, and IP are zero rated for VAT. Import VAT credits on purchases are now clearer, reducing production costs. Well, remote work support. Nigerians working remotely for foreign employers outside Nigeria are exempted from PIT, encouraging participation in the global digital economy. Well, benefits for state and federalism. Well, new VAT sharing formula. VAT distribution now gives federal government 10%, state 55%, local government 35%. Well, states under place of consumption model will see increased revenue, boosting fiscal autonomy. Well, state revenue empowerment. States gain authority over LLP taxes, lottery, gaming levies, stamp duties, and receive 5% of federal VAT. Bonds issued by states are also tax exempt, making state finance more independent. Fiscal coordination via Joint Revenue Board. Harmonized tax administration and audit frameworks across federal, state, and local government levels, with the establishment of the Joint Revenue Board, ensuring stronger intergovernmental collaboration. Transparency, dispute resolution, and tax fairness. Well, on this, the Office of the Tax Ombudsman and Appeal Tribunals, this old tax reform has also provided a streamlined 14-day window to resolve taxpayers' grievances, reducing enduring disputes and arbitrary assessments. Now, speaking about nuisance tax repeal and a progressive tax structure, more than 50 redundant levies eliminated tax rates for PIT, VAT, and capital gains, restructured progressively, shielding low-income earners. Well, let's see how this plays out. Increased transparency, establishment of the tax ombudsman, and harmonized tax laws, full-stack accountability across NDAs, building trust with taxpayers. Well, we can go on and on, but then let me leave you with the oil and tax path of this old reform. New executives order grants up to 20% tax credits to oil companies that achieve cost efficiency and intensifying productivity in a vital revenue stream. Well, I'm being joined this evening by public affairs analysts who will be looking at this conversation with me this evening, trying to understand and help us make sense with what these tax reforms will do to various states and how we'll be able to benefit. But then looking at it from the basis of it, which stands for the simplified tax administration. Well, the timing for this tax reforms, is it still adequate for Nigeria, knowing fully well that the local government has not been fully structured? And all of this, well, we'll be joined, I'm being joined this evening by Chidi James, who is a public affairs analyst, to talk with me on all of these concerns and issues this evening. You're welcome to Big Talk, James Chidi. Good evening, James Chidi. Welcome to Big Talk.
Thank you. Thanks for having me once again.
All right, James Chidi, let's look at this conversation from the surface of it. We're seeing more tax reforms, and it's been signed into law right now, which we're waiting for the full implementation from state and then through to local government. But when you look at this what do you make of all of this tax reform law right now being passed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Anyway, first of all, most our basic challenges here is not laws but implementation of laws. So to me, it is not about making promulgations and pronouncements, it's the implementation. Until we see these things kickstart, run effectively, then we will be able to know if indeed it is going to take real shape as it is pronounced, or the paper pronunciation and different thing on ground. We have seen where tax agents, share out numbers, collect taxes without remitting them to offices, different ways of taxation that are running. It is not a bad one when we have reduced taxes on some goods and some individuals who earn low. It is a good one. But the point is, implementation is where the whole thing boils down to. We are not having issues with pronouncements, to me, as it were, in Nigeria. So I think most times, after all the failures on so many pronunciations, I do like to wait to see these things start happening in effect. Just like you said, many local governments are not really independent the way you see them. They are still being run by the state. So how does this now translate to independence in tax and the way it is being structured to work with the local governments and the state and the federal? So that is where these things come to damn themselves, and it's not a very good one. So but let us see the thing in practice, then we know what we want to talk about. I think this is where I want to take it from. Thank you.
Right. So, Chidi, let's even look at the fact that a lot of analysts have said that this whole tax reform will be able to create some form of a balanced system across Nigeria, knowing fully well that they will not be robbing Peter to pay Paul. In this instance, the poor will be able, people within the lower cadre of the economy will be able at this point to appreciate their resources and be able to account for what they are being taxed for. When you look at it in this light, would this bring about an egalitarian system across Nigeria, looking at our tax system across board?
Probably that is what it sets out to do. Probably that is what the system is set out to do. Not a system anymore where the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. But where here the lesser you earn, probably you are tax free or a reduced tax rate. So, but like I said, let us have it running. Then we can say exactly what it is. Whether the main purpose and the objective is still what it is being used to, run, and whether it will be effective. These things will be pronounced today. You may find out that the effect may be in 200 years' time for the thing to kickstart running. That is my problem with the whole thing. So I prefer let us have it first of all in full. Let this kickstart. Then we know the system we are talking about.
Chidi, we've often talked about the fact that we spend more money on governmental agencies, ministry, parastatals in terms of salary, payment, and other logistics. But here we are, this tax reform is going to create the Nigerian Revenue Service. Because this bill is going to create, that's the establishment bill for all of this, which has been passed into law right now. When we look at this, doesn't this seem like a duplication of function, what we have to do when we're trying to cut costs of governance, even at this very critical point of our economical growth and development as a people?
Yeah. This to me does not actually translate to cutting cost of governance. We don't use a screwdriver to mean a spanner. This is a tax system. It is not reduced at it is not targeted at cutting the cost of governance. It's just probably like we said initially, it is going to reduce burden of taxation on low income individuals. Then, but when we talk about cutting cost of governance, there are more and more ways we can tackle that, not just by taxation. You can't tell me when you take 50,000 or 100,000 from somebody who is taking 300, 500 million naira, then you cut of governance. That does not really translate to cutting cost of governance. So let's just be factual here and separate fact from myth. Thank you.
Let's talk even on the fact that the federal government has agreed to take 10% from the distribution, the VAT distribution across the country, giving the states 55% and the local government 35% to run with. When you look at the current structure of our various states, 36 states to be precise, if you look at the structures that we have across board in Nigeria, are we ready for all of this VAT sharing formula and distribution mechanism right now? When you look at it from, as an analyst and from your own light.
That is why I told you we can have this pronounced in by today, and before it starts taking effect, it might be 200 years. The 10% to me is okay going to federal government and thereabout. The revenue sharing formula is not a bad one, but the question is when this kick start, it is not pronouncement. I agree, it is okay. It's going to balance the revenue sharing formula, but when will it kickstart? We can have this pronouncement today, and it might not take effect till 200 years. So what we do, I said it before, the problem we have, the challenge we have as a people is not laws, but actions.
In the light of saying that we've seen states manage their own resources, even apart from the VAT, value-added tax, and all of these reforms that is coming with the tax. We've seen states manage their resources, but when you want to assess the management of state resources across the country, how will you assess the state management of their own resources, taking it from the 6 geopolitical zones right now, and try to tie this up to this old tax reform? Are we going to see a more robust implementation even from states that have not been able to manage their own resources?
First of all, before you talk about a state managing its resources because it's getting revenue from the federal government, the state should be productive. Somebody who cannot be able to manage or even make 5 naira cannot manage effectively 10 naira that is being given to him or her by some other persons. We should have been making those states more economically viable. Then we talk about them being able to manage their own resources. Some of these states we know here don't even have any idea of generating revenue for themselves. So when they don't think about how to generate revenue for themselves, then how do they think about how to manage resources. What we've been doing here is sharing resources and it goes to people's pockets. So I still see the same thing repeating itself. Not until we make those states viable. It is when a state is making money, then it thinks, this money I have made, how do I share it? Because let us talk about the budgeting involves the process of making money and the expenditure. So when a state is not making its own budget effectively, being able to make the money itself and talk about the expenditure, it's a difficult one. So a state being able to manage its resources here, I'm not seeing it clear at all in this time.
This is quite interesting. Let's even look in terms of with this all further support and ease of doing business in Nigeria and also promote some form of competition among states for productivity. When we look at the fact that all states right now will be getting 55% whatever in terms of the VAT distribution across the state, would this further ease the business premises in Nigeria right now in your own assessment?
Probably it will. Yes, my increased rate of doing business and ease of business, because when the tax burden is relieved from low income earners, then they have more, they feel a little bit more relieved from the burden of taxation and all that. So I think it might definitely increase the rate of businesses. Yes.
About the bad tax right now, about the bad tax that governors rejected, plus Northerners that have also, prior to this time, have rejected all of this tax reform. People have said that the timing for this tax reform is ill-timed. It is not properly timed because Nigeria is still trying to come out of the subsidy quagmire and a lot of the near poverty situation that we found ourselves in, a lot of controversy that have surrounded the Nigerian economic space. But when you look at all of these bad debts, bad taxation, and the whole generality of the taxing system in Nigeria, is this tax reform coming at the right time for us in terms of our tax revolution right now in Nigeria, or evolution if you like?
Definitely, it is bad timing. It is bad timing, I must say. There is you don't bring in taxes when businesses are struggling. Remember, the businesses we are talking about here to increase their taxation are the ones that are even striving to survive at this moment, this very harsh economic reality of ours. So, first of all, I can say it is bad timing. I actually said before, it would have been better if the economy is fixed. Then we talk about progressive taxation, where somebody who is earning higher is paying higher. But when businesses that are trying, the one we are saying that we are removing from the taxes are the ones that are dead already. Then the ones that are trying to survive the heat are the ones who are increasing their taxes and trying to squeeze their neck. So I think this time is not the very best time for this taxation. The government of the day should first of all concentrate on fixing the economy, and after which taxation by way of increment comes in. It will be a little bit better for Nigerians, ease the stress of the businesses that are actually dying off and struggling to survive. It will ease their stress. I can agree with you.
That this is the biggest single achievement of President Bola Tinubu administration so far, this tax reform, to further create a more balanced system for us to discuss tax issues across the country. Do you agree with this notion?
When a particular policy is tagged bad timing and they a bit user friendly if the economy were to be bubbling, but for it is not. you can't call it one of the achievements when it is not recording any success rate. At the moment, it's not even fully implemented. So how do we call it? Something that we don't even know whether the government of the day will implement, and at the end of the day it will go out, and incoming government might discard it and all this. So at the moment, is whatever. If he says it's part of his success, then his success should be calculated in terms of effect. What is is there any dividend this particular policy has yielded for Nigerians? Will you say, yes, I have implemented this policy, Nigerians, we are generating 20 billion before from tax. This policy has made Nigeria to generate 25 billion from taxation, and the people are feeling the dividend of this increment or whatever. So when we talk about something being one of the successes achieved by a particular person or government, then we should be rating it in terms of its effect. Is there any effect on Nigerians? A policy that has just been on paper, no effect. So let's be sincere.
The effects. Let's talk about these remote jobs right now in Nigeria. Of course, part of what the tax reform is trying to do is to ensure that it's able to boost the effects and ensure that Nigerians that are working remotely with foreign companies and organizations will be able to enjoy some certain privileges and dividends. But Nigerians that are working remotely right now are saying we are even afraid that the government might want to move a bit this policy. They don't trust this government in terms of the remote workers. But when you look at this, is there something to go by with when we look at all of this policy, try to look at it from the light of Nigerians that are working remotely across different parts of the world? Nigerians across the world are saying that, especially Nigerians that work remotely, the young, we call them Gen Zs, that get their jobs, apply for their jobs across the world and get these jobs using various platforms, which I don't want to delve into this evening. But they are afraid right now, saying that this whole policy by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will sideline them in the next future. And of course, because this government, to them, has not really been trustworthy when it has to do with policy, an economic policy, because of this whole metamorphosis that Chemso has taken the economic policies and trying to ensure that. But when you look at all of this policy from the angle of remote workers across the country, is there something for them to be afraid of, even looking at this policy in its generality?
To me, I think it has nothing to do with working remotely and all that. It's not targeted at anyone. It is generally targeted at, reducing taxation on low-income earners, and has nothing to do with targeting anyone. If there is anything to be scared of, to me, I am not seeing any fear. The only thing I'm seeing is just the ill timing. Apart from this, if the economy is fixed, then I think nobody should have anything to be scared of. Taxation is something done across the globe. In fact, even if you go to the UK, for instance, the tax is very high, but the good thing is that the economy is robust. So that is a good instance of very high taxation, but with a robust economy. The tax has nothing to, anybody has nothing to fear with taxation, especially when the economy is robust. But when the economy has tanked such as this, then people have to be scared. because their businesses are no longer protected. Even their livelihood are no longer it's no longer protected. Imagine somebody who is earning 1 million or less per annum. Then you tax the person 10% or 15%. How will the person survive? Or 20? So it's that is where the problem is. An economy that has tanked, people has something to fear. But a bubbling economy, fine. No, nobody has anything to fear. I just give an instance. UK is one.
Quite interesting so far. Well, please, Chidi, just stay with us. We'll go for this short break, and when we come back, we'll still talk more on tax issues in Nigeria, because we have a lot of things to discuss even here on Big Talk. Please go there where the show continues in a moment. Welcome back. Just in case you're just joining us, this is Big Talk here on Global Television. Brother Chidi, let's talk in terms of this old tax. Well, the government have come out to say that, of course, we want to ensure that we cut down tax and ensure we create a more regulatory framework. But then we've seen something even from this tax reform which is very striking for us, and this tax law that has just been signed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and that is the fact that most of there is this board that has been created so far to ensure that there is it is called the establishment of the Joint Revenue Board to ensure stronger intergovernmental collaboration. Now, we don't know what that board will consist of, but then we're talking about a lot of policies prior to this time. I recall that during President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, we have the Joint Tax Board that was created, the JTB that was created by the then Vice President, speaking about the President of Osibanjo, Professor Yemi Osibanjo, that created that Joint Tax Board in order to harmonize the various tax boards in the country. But here again, we're having another establishment of the Joint Revenue Board to ensuring stronger intergovernmental collaboration. When you look at this and all the multiplicity of agencies that we've had spread across the country, the total count of our ministries, agency and parastatals right now is hitting above 400 so far. When you look at this and this whole board to ensure a stronger intergovernmental collaboration, does this mean that we are going to be having another board that will be saddled with responsibility of ensuring that state, federal and local governments are working together when it has to do with this old tax reforms? That's on one hand. On the other hand, let's inform you at this point in time, if such of this magnitude is not well factored, this you've given time that it should be looked into 14 days window to receive taxpayers and grievances and all of this. But then, if all of this is not being achieved within 14 days, is this to say that we will be left to go back to courts, and aggrieved citizens will be going back to courts to address some of this concern of tax irregularities that will be meted on the citizens. But you look at it in this light of this conversation, what do you make of all of this development so far?
First of all, one of the problems I see with governance in Nigeria is that continuity is not actually sustained. There's no sustained, no way to sustain continuity with programs. The unified system of taxation by Osibajo, I don't see anything wrong with that board. Here again, we have that one about to be passed, a new one to be set. We are not even too sure that the next administration will sustain this unified system and not squash it and set up a new one. All these are just, political manipulations, and that is the major problem we have as a people. But then, I don't also know how the system intends to resolve tax issues within 14 days. Probably it might be having its own court, having its own system of adjudication that will dispense this justice and conclude with it within 14 days. I don't know. But if it doesn't, then it means citizens will have to seek redress if these things are not resolved within 14 days in court. So, but until it starts running, like I said, probably we will be able to find out if it will be having its own court system that will be sitting with a chief judge and all that magistrate to sort out and resolve these issues legally. If not, like I said, then we Nigerians will have to seek redress in court where they are not, where the grievances are not resolved in a manner that is to them having justice. Thank you.
Chidi, again, on that issue, there is this simplified tax administration, that is, it will be the creation of the Nigerian Revenue Service, NRS, to replace multiple collection agencies, streamlining tax filing and reducing overlapping levies. Now, that's on another hand. They're going to create a Nigerian Revenue Service. I'm curious at this point, Chidi, should civil servants be afraid of losing their job at this point, or when you look at it from the surface, should we begin to say at this point the government has gotten it a full right at this point to amalgamate or fuse the various agencies together when it has to do with tax? So we won't be having federal inland revenue anymore, I won't be having other agencies anymore. Should the staff of these organizations, bodies, and also these organizations as it were, should they be afraid of losing their jobs at this point in time?
Yes, change must have to affect someone positively or negatively. If a streamlined revenue body is very, very necessary for Nigerians, I agree. So for those who should be afraid of losing their job, I know that the federal government has the capacity to absorb them even under the same streamlined body. That is one way. Or the government should find a way to cushion the effect of whatever job loss they may be having. We need to have a streamlined tax or revenue generating body. But I am scared that all these things will only end on paper. Are you aware that apart from these ways of collecting taxes, the bodies we know that collect taxes, are you aware that when you go to the parks, for instance, they are also the ones that use stick to collect taxes from commuters, bus drivers, keke napep riders, and all this? Are they not also tax collectors? And some of these tax collectors don't remit these taxes to government. if this thing is going to address these all these illegalities, abnormalities, abnormal ways of taxation, it's fine by Nigerians. But I'm scared. Like I said before, the major problem we have with Nigeria is that everything is done politically. We have these things from paper. Like I said, pronouncements are very easy, but actions is the major brain, is the major problem. So let us keep watching. Nigerians are also watching. Nobody, we think they are not observing, they are not watching. It's just that they feel helpless. You know, when people use even private car owners, they also have the ones that go after them as well. All these things are ways of collecting taxes from people illegally. You know, so when we streamline this, I hope all these ones also fall in, so that we'll be able to get it. We'll be able to get it right once and for all. Let it not end practically on paper, and we will still do our illegality on the streets. Thank you.
When we look at this whole tax administration and the various reforms, right, that has been signed into law by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Nigerians in the rural community will say that they're not even aware that there is a tax administration, talk less of having a tax system in Nigeria. You just get to feel the brunt of increase in products in the market and other forms of irregularities that they've seen across the board. But then when you, as a professional, as an analyst, when you look at this whole tax administration that has been introduced, should Nigerians in a rural community be afraid at this point? Despite the fact that they, to a very large extent, a lot of them will say that these tax have not been fully explained to them. Should they be afraid, or rather, or should they be excited with these old reforms? Should they see this as the Christmas that have come too soon, especially in June, or they should see this through another lens? When you look at all of this tax right now that we have across the country that has been signed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, again, will this return them back to the colonial era, which almost led to a more of a civil unrest in 1929, which led to the Abawimen riots? Is this going to be the case because it has to do with tax? Should locals be afraid?
Anyway, for now, there is nothing to be afraid of, since the locals are not even the target. How much are the locals generating? So I think the locals are also the low-income earners who have been targeted to be taxes on the tax exempt list. So the other side where I say they should be afraid of, but that side has not, it is not really enough in full function. Well, that is where taxes, these ailing companies that are being targeted at the moment, they are going to be generally increasing or inflating the prices of commodities. For instance, a low-income earner that has no capital to go to China to import goods to begin to sell to locals, but the middle-income earners have this capital and can go to China. So when you increase the taxes on their goods, then on their whatever services and whatever, then they will also, push these taxes to the direct consumers of their product, and that will also increase the cost of living drastically in the country. Now, where they should be afraid, this is the particular place now. Then there is no price regulatory body functional as it were. People just go and fix prices in the night. Tomorrow again in the morning, they increase, they keep inflating prices because there is no price regulation. Once I was somewhere outside Nigeria one time, I was with a manager, for instance, and that was during coronavirus era. The government of the country announced a 7-day lockdown. People should be able to buy whatever they want and go inside their house for 7 days. No opportunity of coming to buy something. Then there was a surge in the market, purchases. So the manager I was talking to you that I met in the I was telling him, no, had it been this way to be in my country, once this kind of surge comes up, then prices will be increased instantly. He said, no, if I increase the price, government will come after me, the company that I'm working on that will sack me. So, but this will never happen in Nigeria. Once there is too many people purchasing any the owner will instantly increase the price to the highest bidder. But this is not the way. So I think this is one of the challenges that Nigerians should be, the locals will be afraid of, because they are the low-income earners who this price increase hit first before the middle-income earners and the rich. So that is the area where their fear should, dwell mostly.
As for alarm. So as alarm. So as it stands now, there's no cause for alarm.
Yes, as it stands now, there is. It's a two-way thing. Their fear should be basically expecting still increased standard of living with low income. Because when these taxes are levied on those middle-income earners, they are going to whatever services they are rendering, which the low-income earners are also part of the people, patronizing. It will surge. Their prices will surge, and it will affect their standard of living. That is where their fear should be. But if their fear is on the fact that they are going to be targeted by the tax directly, I think it's not going to work that way. It's going to come through the back door to hit them.
Just before I let you go, a lot of Nigerians have come out to say, hey, we've seen the Supreme Court pass a judgment on local government autonomy, although it's enshrined in Schedule 7 of the Nigerian Constitution. Again, we've seen the Supreme Court affirm that section of the Constitution, but they've not seen full implementation when it has to do with the entire process of local government autonomy in Nigeria. Now, let's look at this old tax reforms initiative. As beautiful as it seems, without the full autonomy of local government, the local government actually benefit from the system. And if you look at it, what would be the time frame for local governments to begin to enjoy this dividend? If you want to give it a time frame, will you say it's between 2-3 months or thereabout for local governments to be able to partake and enjoy in this old sharing formula? That's on one hand. On the second hand, looking at this old policy from the local government perspective, should the local government chairman that have not been able to create an account as part of the procedures that was stipulated by the Central Bank of Nigeria for their for autonomy to be fully implemented, at this point they don't have access to get this money from the federal government. 35% as it were right now, as it is right now. Should the local government system will it be hinged hanging on one foot when it has to do with implementation and ensuring that the people at the local level enjoy the full dividends of democracy from the proceeds of that?
Yeah, I said this before. Our problem is implementation. It is easier to make pronouncements, but too hard to implement. The challenge is stronger individuals and weak institutions. If these institutions are actually being made to be stronger than these individuals, then we can begin to have smooth running of government. Yeah, that is when the court can say something and it happens. That is when the pronouncements will be taken seriously. So for now, I don't even know when the stronger individuals who are Muslim down the wheel of the court will be made to, and who will make them, because the system is weak. It's weak to speak for the local government. The system is weak to speak for organs of government, where you have some states being run even by local government, being run by local government administrators, not by individuals elected by the people, as you know. So how these things have serious direct effects on the freedom of these local governments, and how they will start benefiting directly, because when their money comes, it goes to the state, and the state governor might decide to say, we are still the people doing funding most of your job, still take 10% or 5%, we will supervise and do the job for you, and they have no way of rejecting, because the system is weak. So when we talk about when the local governments will begin to enjoy the dividends of this taxation directly from the federal government, I can tell you practically I don't know, because I can't tell you 3 months, I can't tell you 6 months, I can't tell you 1 year, neither will I be able to tell you 2 years. This, let me tell you something. The former President Buhari, will always say, I'm not aware. So probably I am seeing this tax reform as one of those things of I am not aware. I'm also seeing this local government autonomy as one of those I am not aware situation, because if you see, most of the state governors are seriously fighting this local government autonomy, because it doesn't benefit them. It's not benefiting the state governors. You understand? This tax reform now probably is, to me, look at it, 10% going to the federation account. It's not also benefiting the federal government. The major part of the money goes to the states. Then followed.
Well, I think we lost you there, your thoughts on that, on the tax reform from local government.
Can you hear me?
At the moment, Chidi.
Can you hear me?
So thank you so much, Chidi, for being a part of Big Talk this evening.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Chidi, I think our time is fast spent, Chidi. I've been signaled right now that it's time for us to go. I want to say thank you so much, Chidi, for finding out time to be with us here on Big Talk.
Thank you, and good night, Nigerians.
All right, this is how far we can go this evening on Big Talk. Do remember that you can join the conversation on our various social media handle currently showing on your screen using @Global TV NG, and you can also download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app from your Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. My name is Godwin Sunday. Always remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Do enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye for now.